Look at that shell. Look at that thing.
Team up on this dude. He was sunk real deep. We got him, brother. Money, dude.
Water moccasin, hanging out, getting a little bit of sun.
Your next crawfish experience, Cajun crawfish.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Ed the Pond Professor here. I am coming to you from South Arkansas right now.
Beautiful South Arkansas.
Beautiful Arkansas. We're going to start way over here. Greg Wistock, the pond guy. We got Rusty Reed. We have Anthony Hobbs. This is Anthony's property. We are all here gathered today to do some incredible work. We're about ready to go over to the farm where they have all these massive alligator snapping turtles. Anthony, could you give us a little bit of information on what we have here?
Well, we have some ponds that have had turtles in them for 35 years.
35 years.
We're thinning out and separating and moving to new ponds.
Well, some of the turtles are actually injuring each other,
That's true.
right?
That's the problem. That's what led to this. The bigger turtles, the males that are huge, are extremely territorial. They fight for their territory.
We're here to see some big turtles and do some turtle wrestling. This is how my entire business started, was with turtles. And so for me to be able to come back and see some of the biggest freshwater turtles anywhere, the coolest freshwater turtles, and it was your father-in-law used to be a trapper that saw the need to preserve them and started breeding them. Is that correct?
Correct.
30 years ago or so. And then instead of selling them for the turtle soup business, started raising them for hatchlings to repopulate the pet trade.
Well, we were totally looking forward to it. So what I think we need to do, wrap everything up, head over to the farm and check this out.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
All right.
But first, baby turtles.
It might fog up in here. A little bit warmer.
I wanted to open it earlier. So, those are, you know, by August, that'll be a 3-year-old turtle. He is actually the one on the malotrusion that's a crooked beak.
He's got a crooked beak. Check him out.
Crooked beak, but he's over 4 inches. He grew.
He's healthy.
He grew faster than any of them.
Oh, isn't that funky? Wow. He's got a unique shell though on him too. It's like it drops down on that side. Doesn't it look weird, Rusty? Let me see. Feel that thing.
That is odd. Yeah, see how the shell scutes actually wrap around the plastron down here at the margin.
This guy's got it too.
I've never seen something about where the age they're at. Huh. I haven't seen that though.
No.
It usually goes right out to
Right.
the
And it
margin
flares.
meat to the plastron.
That'd actually be hard to hook and move.
Ooh, yeah. You don't want to
get
raise.
big.
You don't want to get these big in the pond. We got to move them
You're
again.
never gonna
35.
get them out. But man, look at that.
I love them at this size.
Wow. That
They'll
is
still get
incredible. Oh yeah, heck yeah, they would.
There's the worm and the breathing hole, closing and opening.
Yeah, this guy's got it on it too. All of them in there.
Well, we'll look at one of these 18-month-olds that are just as big as those down here.
Okay.
Move down to the right and left tank at the very end. They've got some 4-inch, 18-month-old.
Oh yeah. Yeah, see, these guys got it too. There's a bunch in here. Wow. Look at that. That is one incredible animal right there. Living dinosaurs. Look at that shell. Look at that thing. You got long tails on them.
Grow out tubs. Okay. We came up with this as an economical something to put them in. Sure. Now, there's some that are 4.5 inches. Quite a few of them. And then,
Beautiful. Hefty little guys, aren't they? They're healthy. They eat a lot.
Some of them seem to eat a lot more aggressive than others.
Yeah.
Biofilter down low with a pump in it, pumping up with a small trickle of water going into each tank. It flows out an overflow pipe inside the tank down into a piping system that is piped back to the biofilter.
So that just discharges on top,
Yep.
goes down through all that
That's just
media,
flowing down
and then
through
it goes
that
down
media.
into your pump
That's
oil.
a little bit lower in that pump.
How often do you have to clean any of that stuff out?
Oh, probably maybe once a month or so. Take that basket and drop the pump down and hook up a hose. Wash that down a little bit, pump out some, put some fresh water in there. I usually turn the pump off to feed them. I can leave it running with these things on there if I raise it up where the feed won't disappear. The tank will come up a little higher as these holes get stopped up, and then I end up with a low level down here. What I'll do when I'm cleaning the tank, I'll shut it off, feed it, wash this down, pump it out, get it nice and fairly clean. You know, I don't worry about getting all of the biological stuff off of there.
Well, and what I like that you have here is you got some of that, you got a sand down there in the bottom for them to burrow themselves in and everything. A lot of times you see a lot of turtles like this and they're just going to have them in plain tub. That's not normally where they're going to be found.
Right.
You know, in nature, they're going to be burying themselves down in that sand or the mud or something like that into those substrates. I think that makes them feel more at home. How often do you feed them?
Every 2 to 3 days.
Is it a pellet? Or
Yeah, it's a pellet. I started with some product that was advertised for aquatic turtles.
Yeah.
And it's in different stages. Has a stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. Price and shipping cost and everything. I just went and ordered Purina.
Yeah.
50% protein feed.
Yeah.
It's basically the same thing as that turtle food was. That's what I'm using. I get it in a 50-pound sack in
Nice.
the local farm store.
I'm guessing you would at least get 50% protein. We have some sturgeon back at our office up in Chicago, and we have 60% protein feed for them.
It really makes a crocodilian feed that a lot of people use. This, I think it's 50 or...
It's higher, yeah, it's what Kenan using for his caimans. That's a high protein feed right there.
Your next crawfish experience, Cajun crawfish. Cajun crawfish for the win. Dump them in, dude. Crank that fire. It's almost done. You know, can hit them with them champignons, dude. That's the mushrooms. Give them a rip, dude. Right. Push them down. Whoa, watch yourself. Push them down. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, kill that fire, dude. Got that frozen corn. Bring that ball temperature down. You want to stir them down right there? While we wait, we're going to hydrate, dude. They peeling like a dream, dude. It's ready to go. Let's chop. Set it down. Like so. That's it. We let them soak, dude. About to give them that old dump. Shake them out, buddy. Get under that. That'll work right there.
You're all right.
So what I like to do is I like to grab all the legs so there's no legs hanging out. Twist, and you got this. Pulling the tail off, you can get the juice out the head. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, never done it before, there's nothing to it. You pinch it, you break them, and then you just roll it over. But when you get really good, you twist it, and I use my teeth. I'll grab it and push and pull. Pull it out, just like that, see? But when you're first starting off, grab all the legs, twist it, take one little sail off just like that, pinch and pull. Eat that, dude.
How about a hand for the chef?
Appreciate everybody coming together for a good cause, man. Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna do a little bit of an excursion here. So this is right down the road from farm. Look at those cypress trees down there. So this is super, super cool. Every time I am off on a project, I love checking out all this stuff because this is where we get our inspiration. So this is what it's all about right here. Beautiful cypress trees. So this is the rainy period right now. Basically a flooded forest. You've heard me talk about these before. So this is the type of stuff that I love designing and building. So this is gonna change throughout the seasons. During the dry season, the water's gonna recede back about 1/4 mile. This is just a massive, massive flooded forest area. It's all bottomlands, loaded with life. Water moccasin, hanging out, getting a little bit of sun, right on that little mossy log, floating in the middle of this incredible, incredible swamp. Lots of little fish. This is a nursery. So this is where all the fish, this is where all the life actually starts. They can go up into these shallows and it gives them access to a huge food source. So as soon as you get this flooded situation, now all of a sudden, there's some turtles over here on basking over there on that log. He's gone. So we're actually inside of this flooded forest area. Rusty's way out there. There's Brandon, Noah, we got Greg. We're just checking stuff out. Except we are at the limit for our waders. This is the type of stuff I talk about all the time. We have logs, trees, vegetation growing up and out of the water. But all of this wood is actually a surface for life. You know, mosses and stuff like that growing on it, but you have biofilms that actually, like right under the top of this water here, you're gonna see algae and you're gonna see stuff living and growing on all of this material. So that's very important from a water quality standpoint, as well as biodiversity. So recreating biomimicry concepts, utilizing nature as our teacher. We could learn a ton from this stuff, but these in forests like this during these the rainy periods and snow melt and all that stuff, and it floods out these southern areas, and it just increases the overall area where this the surface area expands. Again, the creek itself is 1/4 of a mile that way, but all of this floods itself out. It increases the overall surface area as well as feeding areas for everything, and it acts as nature's filtering system. So the high velocity water that would be found in the stream bed itself, way over there, it's going to be moving very quickly because all this water is trying to get out of here. But in here, it's backing up and it's slowing down, allows the sedimentation process to occur. Sediments are going to build up on the bottom, which are actually going to feed the incredible forests that are growing inside of here. So all of that stuff, so when I talk about water velocities and I talk about having sedimentation zones, it's all for a reason. We're trying to replicate these incredible natural ecosystems that are found all around the world, and we could learn. All we have to do is stop and look.